99.9% of projector parents had no idea their child was fundamentally different and needed a totally different upbringing. So the way that you were modeled how to be in relationship was wrong. And I'm not smiling, I'm smiling because it's frustrating, but it's also true.
It's also interesting timing as well, this call. As I said, this is probably the largest projector gathering in history so far, and I'm sure they'll get bigger and bigger. But the world is shifting and changing rapidly at this stage, and relationships for projectors up until this time point, probably more on the challenging side, probably trying to mirror what 70% of the population is doing and just feeling like, yeah, there's something slightly different about me. There's slightly, I don't know. But the world is shifting to accommodate the projector frequency a lot more. We are actually bringing in this frequency. So the more that we can tap into our authentic nature and truth, especially in relationship, the more that authenticity will be reflected back, especially at this time point as we move into some of the bigger astrological cycles with bigger planets like Pluto coming into more of an Aquarian age and relationship guide. I want to share a few common things that could show up for us projectors in relationship and how we could potentially feel. I think that if we're just going through life by ourselves, sometimes as projectors, we can feel a little off to the side because we are just simply, we're outnumbered. So the world is functioning more as a generator world. So some of the common things that can show up being a projector, if you think about a bell curve, most of us know what a bell curve is. Let's say, 70% are here. Projectors are definitely not in the middle of the bell curve. So you need to know that about yourself. You need to know that you're fundamentally unique, different, and the more you can accept that and understand that, the more genius and brilliance that will actually come through you. So we're off to the sides. And knowing that is important. When we try and match the rest of the world, what happens to us? Well, we can get tired, especially in social situations. I'm sure many of us on this call going into social situations, you can maybe match the environment, but when you leave, there might be like a dropping of energy. I have to have my own time. I have to relax. Or there could just be a lot of overwhelm going into social situations because we absorb so much. So our sensory is actually more heightened, which is a beautiful thing for us to receive and connect to life profoundly. Yet if we're going into a social situation, then we connect with everyone there and we absorb it. And that can be overwhelming energetically, also in our sensory system. We can lose ourselves at times. Like, who am I in this? Because we can actually almost like blend into the other person. We can become a chameleon, I think the name is. So knowing that, we need to find who we are before moving into a relationship. Otherwise, patterns can really show up that aren't going to be healthy and they're going to be challenging. We try and keep up with everyone. That's going to be a challenge as well. And all of this can bring up feelings of bitterness because we also have needs. And in relationship, in connection, at times we put ourselves second, blend into the other, and therefore we're not seen for who we are. We don't express ourselves authentically because there is that heightenedness. And so these are some of the challenges that can actually show up as a projector inside a relationship.
So first, projectors, we are not wired for relationships the same way the rest of the human design types are. We are not here to do relationships in the same way. 80% of the world is designed to work a 9-to-5 job, have a relationship, have a family, and feel really satisfied. We aren't. So I just want to say that, not that projectors aren't here to be in relationship, but it's actually not our main focus. We came here on a mission to be a guide for the future. Each of us have a different thumbprint we're here to offer the world. So our mission, our unique purpose, is where our satisfaction will come from first and foremost. So if we aren't tending to that aspect of ourself, we won't feel fulfilled in life, period. So when that part of our life tends to have more fulfillment, then our relationships can feel more connected, because we're actually here doing the thing that life came here for us to do. So I want to just let that point sink into your soul, that we operate in this world with a different function and a different desired outcome of feeling successful and satisfied than the rest of the world. And okay, I will sound a little bit cliche here, but I want to remind this point to projectors: your most relationship, seriously 100,000% true, is the one you will be with for the rest of your life. And that is the one to yourself. So secondly, why there's challenge is the way our aura is designed. So our aura is outward. Our aura is penetrative. This can be challenging in our relationships because we can go into the other person. We're deeply, deeply felt. We become masters. We can master our environments. We can master everybody else. Yet, due to this natural outward penetrative aura that we have, we become deficient in knowing ourselves, our unique needs, how to take care of ourselves independently, and then actually how to ask for our unique needs in our relationships. So where do we learn how to be in relationships? Well, we learn relationships based on our primary caregivers. That primary relationship is where we learn how to be in relationship. And whether or not your primary caregivers, that was a loving relationship or a really freaking challenging one, doesn't matter, because 99.9% of projector parents had no idea their child was fundamentally different and needed a totally different upbringing. So the way that you were modeled how to be in relationship was wrong. And I'm not smiling, I'm smiling because it's frustrating, but it's also true. We organically began to adapt to our environments as children by trying to be like everyone else and learning, unfortunately, unhealthy behaviors and beliefs that we are still enacting. Some of those behaviors we learned was to be the helper. I can't tell you how many projectors I work with that were the ones caretaking their parents often, because at a young age, they actually were able to perceive their family at a wiser place, because of that's the projector skill, and that can happen as young as 2 or 3 or 4. And so we begin to develop an identity about, I'm here just to take care of the other person. Or because we weren't validated as children, we thought there was something wrong with us. So we begin to try to be perfect in everything that we do. Or oftentimes I work with people that end up just shutting down completely because they felt life's too hard. And as children, no one was there helping them tend to their sensitivity. No one was encouraging them to go out into nature. No one was knowing the importance of validation and being seen by their parents or caregivers. And that's super crucial for our sense of self-worth and self-esteem. If you were anything like my upbringing, I was told I was sensitive and it wasn't a compliment, right? Like I was just too sensitive. And that's super painful, because that sensitivity is one of our greatest gifts. And to be judged for it, or not even to be told like, that's amazing, and because you're so sensitive, these are the things you've got to make sure you do. We were programmed that our life was supposed to be like a generator's life.
So there's 4 arrows in the human design chart. If people get your chart, my body graph, whatever, Uh, the right arrows are more to do with the mind. The left arrows are more to do with the body, the more subconscious. The top arrows are going to be more internal, and the bottom arrows are how we actually move in the environment, more to do with the nodes, north node, south node. The top one's the sun. And so therefore, if you've got a quad right, what this means is the 4 arrows are pointing to the right. If it points to the right, you're more open, you're more absorbing, it's more feminine. Left means more direct, more masculine. So therefore, if you're a quad right, think of it like you're more porous. You've got a bigger sponge and you're absorbing more stuff, emotional, energetic, thoughts, these things. Many of us will have 2 right, 2 left, or there'll be, a balance. But if you've, as a projector, you're already a big sponge, then if you've got 2 arrows to the right, that's even more, 3 even more, 4 even more. And every center you have open is even more. So you can sort of add all these elements up to see how porous am I. You can't switch your arrows to the left. You're born like that. You're born with a software, with a code, with a system, because you were born, because you took your first breath at this time. This is your software. So knowing that, okay, I'm a huge sponge, well, what am I choosing to absorb? That would be a question, because you can't really turn it off. Yes, you can have boundaries, but what are you going to absorb? Are you going to absorb nature? Are you going to absorb a pet like a cat? Is that going to really nourish you? If you're around in a work environment, I have 7 open centers. I have a totally open solar plexus center. So I'm absorbing a lot. And if I'm in a work environment with many people around, that's too much for my system. So it's actually about also cultivating and setting up life that is going to be supportive for you.
So if you're thinking and thinking and thinking, you're using the wrong strategy. So you can get lost up there. And then things like nothing's making sense. Is to see all of these things, you can get stuck in here, and you can rely on that as your source of knowing, and that isn't your source of true knowledge. It's from your splenic response, which takes some time to listen to, because it's not very loud. So if you're so stuck in your head and everything is thinking, you're missing life's default mechanism for how you should move about in the world. Again, just to remind yourself, you came here to be a change for the future, a much needed change on this planet at this time. Well, as I say this, I'm getting goosebumps. So to receive that, you're here on purpose, and that purpose is not to be compared to anyone else around you. It's to stay in your lane, to know you're unique, to know you see the world differently, to know that the way your partner sees the world you guys are living in different realities, and that's a beautiful thing. So I really, really honor your path. I know if you're sitting here as a projector, it hasn't always been easy. It has been challenging. It has been confusing. And I honor that too, because there's lessons for that, for why you are here for the future as well.